Hey y'all, good afternoon. Sorry I haven't been uploading videos in a little bit. Had a few life events happen. First off, he finally proposed, so now I'm engaged. Super exciting, got a wedding to plan. Exciting. I'm gonna be growing my hair out, so the videos are gonna, my hair is gonna be looking not so great, but I guess, gotta do what you gotta do, priorities, right? So today we're going to finish chapter 5 of Lindsay Gibson's Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. This is going to be the last chapter that I actually read. I'm not sure if Lindsay Gibson has a problem with it or not. I mean, I've given her a lot of credit and all of this, but it's still a copyrighted work. And she emailed me. So, oh my God, she emailed me. And it was a nice email. I actually just reached out to her. I think I've told you guys I'm reading her second book. Super excited about it. It's where she really goes into the details of, okay, so now you have emotionally immature people in your life, or maybe you're emotionally immature. What do you do about it? And so that second book really focuses, like she does journal exercises and all this stuff. So I'm super excited about recording the summaries of that with you, and then maybe doing a separate series of recordings where we go over the exercises. So starting with chapter 6, which is going to be the next recording, I'm just going to do summaries, and that way I don't know, like I said, she hasn't responded back, so I don't know if she'd have a problem with it or not, but I just want to be super respectful of someone else's work. Hopefully you guys have joined our book club online on Facebook. You've subscribed to YouTube. Please tell your friends to subscribe, and check out our website, www.findingyourselfsatx.com. You can fill out a questionnaire there for free and email it to us, and the first consult is always free. So without charging you a penny, we'll give you some value, and I hope these videos are of value to you too. So without further ado, I will continue. Chapter 5, Part 2. Oh, old lady glasses. Always forget about that. Externalizers. We're talking about, going back to this chapter is, it's been so long, I forget how different children react to emotionally immature parenting. So we're basically going over the concept of externalizers and internalizers. Externalizers can be abusive siblings. Many of my clients who are internalizers have lived with out-of-control externalizing siblings. These clients all had the same situation. A predatory, indulged sibling, whether older or younger, made life miserable for them as children, while their parents did nothing to intervene. If the sibling was bored or upset, he or she took it out on the client. Their parents often saw the externalizing siblings as special in some way and let them get away with all kinds of bad behavior. In some cases, this even took the form of sexual abuse, which my clients either didn't report because they thought their parents wouldn't believe them, or did report only to have their parents defend the abusive sibling. Externalizing siblings can also perpetuate emotional abuse, ruling the family with their troubles and tantrums. While the internalizers felt like they couldn't get away with anything, the externalizing siblings were let off the hook repeatedly. Emotionally immature parents often placate or rescue externalizing children. Often this seems like the only solution because the externalizers keep making impulsive choices that make their lives unmanageable. In a family with an externalizing sibling, the parent's attitude is often to silence any complaints of unfairness by the internalizer, telling the child to try to get along or to understand the sibling's problem. For the parent, nothing is worth getting a kid who externalizes upset. The message to internalizers is that they should put their needs on the back burner and instead focus on what the externalizer needs. Externalizers are also prone to wrongly accusing others of abuse, presenting themselves as the wrong victim who needs special attention. One innocent woman was shocked when her younger brother, an externalizer, accused her of sexually abusing him in childhood. When he was little, she had sacrificed much of her teen life taking care of him because their parents were focused on a chronically ill grandparent. Her brother's unfounded accusation fit his pattern of casting about for external reasons why he couldn't manage his life. Their parents sided with him immediately, even after my client swore that nothing had happened. The roles her parents and brother played as rescuers and hapless victim were too well established for the facts to have a bearing. The continuum of coping, mixed styles. Like everything in human nature, personality characteristics don't occur in pure forms. Rather, any given trait exists along a continuum. Internalizing and externalizing occur on a spectrum, with the most severe examples of each differing profoundly from one another. Under the right conditions, each type can display behaviors and attitudes ordinarily associated with the other type. For instance, once externalizers hit rock bottom, they sometimes open up to the idea that they may need to change instead of expecting the world to adjust to them. And when under severe stress, some internalizers start reacting as impulsively as any externalizer. Externalizers can become more internalizing. Ultimately, externalizing and internalizing are just two sides of being human. Everyone can show more or less of either style depending on circumstances and where they fall on the continuum. That said, people who seek therapy or enjoy reading about self-help are far more likely to have an internalizing style of coping. They are always trying to figure out what they can do to change their lives for the better. In contrast, people who externalize their problems are more likely to end up in treatment due to external pressures, such as courts, marital ultimatums, or rehab. Much of addiction recovery is geared towards nudging externalizers toward adopting a more internalizing coping style and taking responsibility for themselves. You could even think of groups like AA as a movement designed to turn externalizers into internalizers who become accountable for their own change. Internalizers can externalize when under stress. Give me just a second, y'all. I'm drinking this tea. Like, I'm trying to lose weight, of course, for the wedding. And I'm drinking this tea that's just black tea. And instead of refreshing me, it parches me more. So I'll be right back. All right. Internalizers can externalize when under stress. On the other hand, internalizers can slip into externalizing when they get overly stressed or lonely. Sometimes overly self-sacrificing internalizers start acting out their distress through affairs or superficial sexual liaisons. They often feel tremendous shame and guilt about this and are terrified that they'll be found out. Yet they're attracted to those liaisons as an escape from an emotionally or sexually barren life. Having an affair helps them feel alive and special again and offers the possibility of getting their needs for attention met outside of their primary relationship without rocking the boat. Most of the time, they first try to talk to their partner about their unhappiness, since their instinct is to take responsibility for solving problems. But if their partner doesn't listen, or worse, rebuffs these overtures, internalizers may go on the lookout for someone to save them, a classic externalizer approach. Maybe this helps explain many midlife crises, wherein previously responsible people seem to reverse some of their values in surprising ways. They seem to suddenly reject obligations and responsibilities as they seek a more personally rewarding life. But in light of the typical internalizer profile, perhaps the midlife metamorphosis isn't so sudden or surprising after all. Maybe it's as a result of years of self-denial, followed by the internalizer's realization that other people's needs have come first way too many times. Substance abuse is another way that internalizers can adopt an externalizing solution under stress, as you can see in the following story. Ron's story. Ron was a lifelong internalizer with chronic back pain who constantly tried to please his self-involved mother and critical boss. He originally came to therapy with an internalizer's perspective, looking for ways he could change his life. But as work stresses increased and he began to feel the loneliness and lack of support in his life, he started externalizing by taking more pain medication and drinking more. Finally, Ron confessed to me that he thought he was going too far in abusing alcohol and pills, and shortly thereafter he sought residential treatment to get his addiction under control. With specialized care, he was able to return to using his own inner coping as the way to solve his problems, rather than turning to the externalizing escape of drugs. Exercise. Identifying your coping style. This exercise will help you identify whether you tend to be more of an internalizer or externalizer. If you'd like to use the checklist below to access other people and see which coping styles seem to characterize them, use the downloadable version of this exercise. With the downloadable content, you'll also find a table summarizing these traits. You might want to print it out and keep it at hand so you can use it to quickly peg others' coping styles. Note that the attributes listed below lie at the extreme ends of the spectrum, accentuating the basic differences in how these two types approach life's challenges. As a reminder, in real life, people are likely to exist somewhere along a continuum for these traits. Still, most people will resemble one type more than the other. Externalizer traits. Approach to life. Living in the present moment and not considering future consequences. Thinking solutions come from the outside. Looking for others to improve things. What should someone else do to make things better? Taking immediate action and thinking later. Underestimating difficulties. Response to problems. Externalizer traits. Response to problems. Reacting to whatever is going on. Viewing problems as someone else's fault. Blaming circumstances. Getting others involved in their problems. Denying or escaping reality to feel better. Externalizer psychological style. Being impulsive and self-focused. Believing emotions have a life of their own. Getting mad easily. Having no interest in the inner psychological world. Externalizer relationship style. Expecting others to provide help. Thinking others should change to improve the situation. Expecting others to listen and tending to engage in monologue. Demanding that others stop nagging. So if you haven't made the connection yet, basically externalizers are the ones who continue to be, they are emotionally immature. They continue on to perpetuate the problem, right? So when we're talking about emotionally immature parents, these tend to be externalizers, not internalizers. Internalizer traits. Approach to life. Worrying about the future. Thinking solutions start on the inside. Being thoughtful and emphatic. What can I do to make things better? Thinking about what could happen. Overestimating difficulties. Internalizer response to problems. Trying to figure out what's going on. Looking for their role in causing a problem. What's my part in this? Engaging in self-reflection and taking responsibility. Figuring out problems independently and working on them. Dealing with reality as it is and being willing to change. Internalizer psychological style. Thinking before acting. Believing emotions can be managed. Feeling guilty easily. Finding the inner psychological world fascinating. Relationship style. Thinking about what others need first. Considering changing themselves to improve the situation. Requesting dialogue without a problem. Wanting to help others understand why there is a problem. If your results indicate that you're primarily an internalizer, you may feel exhausted from trying to do too much of the emotional work in your relationships. The next chapter will explore the internalizing characteristics that prompt you to do too much for others. If, on the other hand, your results indicate you're primarily an externalizer, you might want to ask others for feedback on how you're coming across. You may be wearing out your support systems. Balance is the key. People who fall at the extremes of either coping style usually have significant problems in living. Extreme externalizers tend to develop physical symptoms or get in trouble with their behavior, while extreme internalizers are prone to emotional symptoms like anxiety or depression. If you review the checklist in the preceding exercise, you'll see that any of the traits could be a benefit or a liability, depending on the circumstances. For instance, you can see that internalizers could develop self-defeating tendencies toward inaction, not speaking up, and avoiding asking for help. Conversely, although externalizers may find their life a mess, their impulsive style often makes them more willing to take action and try different solutions. Sometimes that kind of impetuousness is exactly what's needed, so in some situations it can be a strength. Under the right conditions, each style might be useful. Ultimately, problems tend to arise when people get stuck at the extreme of either coping style. Still, the overall externalizer profile does reflect a personality that's generally more unrealistic and less adaptive. That's because the extreme externalizer's immature coping mechanisms simply don't work well for successful relationships, nor do they promote mature psychological development. Summary. Children have different ways of reacting to emotionally immature parenting, but they all develop subconscious healing fantasies about how things could get better. If a child's true self isn't accepted, the child will also adopt a role self as a way of having a valuable part to play in the family. In addition, children develop two main coping styles in response to emotionally immature parenting: externalizing or internalizing. Externalizers think the solutions to their problems will come from outside themselves, while internalizers tend to look within themselves to solve problems. Either style might be advantageous in the moment, but internalizing is far less likely to create conflict or subject other people to hardship. Instead, the internalizer's difficulties are much more likely to result in inner distress. In the next chapter, we'll take an in-depth look at the internalizing style. You'll see how childhood healing fantasies of internalizers can trap them in self-defeating roles, and how recovering their true self can free them again. So now we're getting into the nitty-gritty or the meat of this book. The first few chapters, which we've just been through, 1 through 5, are really helping you to understand, are you dealing with emotionally immature people in your life? And I would say it doesn't have to be your parent. It could, if you're an adult, right? Sometimes you perpetuate your parent-child relationships into your spousal relationships. It could even be people at work. So that's basically what she focused on, chapters 1 through 5. Who are you dealing with in your life? Are you one of these people, right? That's important to understand too. And then the next few chapters is where she goes into how to deal with it. And I would say this book gives you a really good high level understanding of how to deal with it. But her second book, which I think we'll do next, will give you a better view. And I was wondering if I should go ahead and move to Gottman before finishing Gibson series. But I think I'm going to go ahead and just finish. So we have this book, and then I'm going to read her second one, and then I'll move on to John Gottman. But I will just give a shout out. I mean, his stuff is so amazing. And honestly, I credit, it's been a long time. I mean, I've been with my fiance for over 2 years. And I would say finding Gottman is what allowed our relationship to thrive. And honestly, I don't think we'd be together if we hadn't found it. So please pick up all of John Gottman's works. And whenever we finish Lindsay Gibson, then we'll move on to that. So thank you guys for being with me. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Texas. We survived Winter Storm Uri, even though we were out of power for, I think, 3.5 days. the internet went down, the whole week at work. I mean, we've been under business continuity planning for the past year for COVID. And now it was, trying to keep the lights on and running with the storm plus COVID and everyone working from home. It just didn't happen. So it's been crazy times here. I hope you guys are doing well, and people around you are doing well, and that you're okay. And hopefully I'll see you, if not next week, then in 2 weeks. I'm not going to promise to do it every week, but I'm going to try. All right. Take care, y'all. Have a good day.